What if I told you that you never have to manually build a workflow again? I'm going to show you how to use Claude to build workflows for you and become your personal developer. So if you're like me, you've probably sat here before and stared at this blank screen on n8n trying to figure out what to do next. You add your first node, maybe it's a trigger manually, and you've got to think through the requirements, fumble through these, and try to figure out what's next. We're going to talk about a different way to do this that I think you're really going to love. So there's 4 things you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is to set up a Claude project. Then you're going to need n8n JSON examples. Then you'll have a tips and tricks sheet and some creative prompt engineering. Now let's dive in to actually build this, and I'll show you step by step how to create this. And then at the very end, I will talk about how you can get some assets for this to get you started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create a Claude project. So here you can type in, we'll call it n8n wizard workflow builder. Okay, and here you can just say, this isn't prompt engineered, so you can put whatever you want. This is built for engineering prompts for n8n. Okay, so starts here. So the first step again is just to set up the project. So first thing we're going to do, so here we're going to add files, upload from device, and here I have a whole bunch of n8n workflows that are just various types of things. So there's an AI agent chatbot with long-term memory, post new YouTube videos to X. So you can see there's just a lot of variety here, even things such as vector database as a big data analysis tool for AI agents. So it's got a lot of things here that are going to give context to Claude as Claude creates them. So what I recommend is just selecting as many of these as you would like. And so we'll just go ahead and do that. There is a limit to something like 300 or so can be selected in projects. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. So we'll give that a minute to process. Once those are processed, the next piece to this is a tips and tricks sheet, which we will also upload. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is some other context that you can give it. So there's an n8n tips and tricks, and there's an n8n cheat sheet guide. So I found these to be very helpful in the process of helping Claude understand how to create these workflows. So we'll go ahead and add those in there, and we'll go through those specifically here in a moment. Looks like most everything is uploaded, and now we will jump over to review the n8n tips and tricks sheet. Now that everything's uploaded here, we are going to just take a quick look at this cheat sheet here that I think is pretty useful. So basically what this is it's giving a lot of instructions on really how to set up things when we're using AI agent models, which version to use, and things like that. So there's just a lot of really good information in here that Claude can draw from. The next one is this cheat sheet. So, oh, sorry, wrong one. This one. So this is the tips and tricks sheet. Another one talks about how to format sticky notes. So one of the great features of this is that it will create sticky notes and explain what it did, which is very helpful. And it has a lot of examples on how to format JSON, some popular tools and things. So these are the main prerequisites for this. So now the next step here is to add instructions, and these are very important to get this right. So I went ahead and paste this in here. So basically, let's go through these. I want you to create a fully functional n8n workflow JSON. No images or screenshots, only valid JSON. Follow these instructions precisely. So basically what's happening here is if you don't put this in here, a lot of times Claude will just try to give you a lot of nonsense that you don't need. So that this is a very important beginning to this prompt. So it's going to first ask, reference all the knowledge base files. It tells specific ones to look at, which are those cheat sheets and the tips and tricks. It gives some other examples to just kind of reference. Workflow description starts with a chat trigger node. So a lot of these will start with chat trigger nodes just to prevent from using any other node like Telegram unless you specifically are asking for that. And then down here, critical configuration requirements. So this talks about using fallback models, different things like that. If there's details missing, to ask for them. Output format, only output JSON, no images or screenshots, no commentary outside of the block. So, sometimes if you don't put this kind of information in there, then Claude will spit out information that won't be usable in n8n. There's the goal here to provide a single self-contained JSON file that can be pasted into n8n, representing a chat to AI agent flow with relevant tools and sticky notes, referencing the knowledge base of best practices. I have some rules in here. If you find one of the sample project files that match it exactly or closely, before proceeding, call this out to review first. So I added this in here because there were times where of these several, 300-400 different JSON examples, there's one that's maybe very close to it, to just make me aware of it first before we do that, because then maybe we could just build off of that one, because I'm a big fan of not doing extra work that I don't need to do. And then it says if a user just asks a general question about the structure of JSON or JavaScript suggestions or anything other than building the workflow, you can skip looking through the project samples and use your general knowledge to answer the question. So this is another important rule that I put in here, because sometimes I just want to sort of vibe code with Claude here and ask questions, or maybe I want to learn about why it created it the way it did, so on and so forth. So this is a very, very important aspect to this. So we're going to save those instructions, and then we're going to move on, and we're going to create a very simple workflow. I have it saved here. We'll say create a workflow that saves form submissions to Google Sheets. And I'm going to use Sonnet here, and I'm going to turn off the extended thinking. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and send this through, and let's see what it builds. So there it's looking through the knowledge base, searching different projects and things. So it used the tips and tricks, ChatGPT email reply. It's just looking at some other things that it thinks might be helpful here. So it's looking at the knowledge base, and it says, hey, we have some here that are interesting. I don't agree that these are what I asked for, but it called them out anyways. So let's see what it builds here. And then we will copy this over into Claude, into n8n once it's finished. And it looks like we have finished here. So from what I can see, it looks like it's created something rather complicated, which is fine. We know we're just getting started here. And so paste it into here. And there you see, you've got sticky notes as requested, and we've got a form submission trigger. It starts with, it's processing some information and goes in and validates some requirements. One thing I really like about this is it will do these code notes here, and will basically put in JavaScript that can be really, really useful sometimes for those that are not developers. So yeah, this is interesting, and looks like it created a lot of things here. So this is a start, right? So the way to think about this is use this to get yourself 70-80% of the way. Think about creating all these nodes one by hand, even if they're not correct, how much time that would take. And so this can kind of speed up the process. So we'll actually try another example here, and we'll do it something a little bit more complicated. So we'll come back over here to Claude, and go ahead and start a new chat. And this is going to be some new requirements here. So we're going to build a workflow that triggers on new Stripe payment, creates invoice in QuickBooks, it sends a customer email with PDF, updates CRM, and maybe we can say like go high level. Curious what it will do here, and then notifies the team in Slack. And yeah, let's just let this create. Okay, it's going through the project knowledge. It's looking for specific examples. Doesn't see a specific workflow that matches exactly with what you're requesting, which I'm not surprised about. So it's going to attempt to build it. All right, looks like it has completed, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it into the workflow builder so we can see what it came up with. All right, so here it came up with a Stripe payment received trigger, and then it's extracting the payment details. Now here it's created a node that is not currently installed. So this sometimes happens, and this is a really good use case example that I'm glad that this did this so I can show you guys what to do in this case. Let's keep going through this workflow, see what else it built. Here you can generate an invoice with a PDF, invoice PDF. It's using the sandbox of QuickBooks, so it kind of already found some API information and it's leveraging it. Here there's an email, so you got to fill in some information here, set your credentials. You can send the email. Here's the notification in Slack, update to go high level CRM. So yeah, so it's using URL webhook post request here. Probably has some examples it found before. It's saying this is the JSON format, so not bad. But let's actually vibe code with this, because what I'm going to say is the QuickBooks invoice node is not installed to use it, the correct one. QuickBooks invoice node is one that is not installed. Go ahead and use the regular n8n QuickBooks node for this part of the workflow. So what's great about this is you can just have it, you can kind of vibe code with it, and you can run it back through, and it will search the project database, recreate it, and try to approve it. Let's let it do its work here. Okay. All right. So what it's doing, it's going to do an HTTP request for the QuickBooks API directly, which is not a bad thing, because it couldn't find an example of the standard QuickBooks node, which means I probably don't have an example in the set that I gave it. So if this is an improvement that you, like if you work with QuickBooks a lot, the one thing you could do is just add a few workflows workflows that you have with QuickBooks, and that way it kind of has that context for future. So let's see what this ends up generating. It's still generating. We'll let this go. And it looks like it has finished up here. So let's copy this in there. Go ahead and blow out the whole thing and put the new one in there. There you go. So yeah, it just made that stripe, and then it looks like it's extracting the payment details. That's all there. And then it's got QuickBooks API call here, create the invoice. It's got some JSON that it's recommending here. So you can see hopefully how powerful this can be. And for me, it's a game changer. It's life-saving. You know, maybe these are not the right nodes, but you know, and maybe I want to replace this with a Gmail node or something because I use Gmail. That's easy to do, right? But creating all of this using Claude is an absolute time saver. But hey, I hope this saves you as much time as it saves me. Please like and subscribe, and I'll put out more content like this. And in the description below, you can find all the information that you need and links to all of the almost 400 workflows, and the tips and tricks sheet, as well as an explanation guide on how to set it up. Thank you very much.